Hi there, crafty friends. Welcome and thank you for joining me. My name is Melissa, and today we are going to make a couple different cards using Altenew's Elegant Motif Suite. And these came out so cute. I just love these. These are super bright. I did these in yellow. I'm not sure how the yellow is going to show up on the camera. I think it's going to be very bright. But hopefully not too bad. We are going to make two of these cards. We are going to make a slimline and a standard A2, and I will briefly go into how I did this card. So let's go ahead and take a look at our products. Now, I have been a big fan of Altenew for quite some time. I did stop purchasing a lot of their stuff just because I was doing the Stampin' Up! Thing and I had to spend all my crafty money on that. But I'm kind of getting back into the Altenew again. I really love these. I got this whole suite on sale. They were having a sale. We will be using this stamp here and then this one here. So we're using two stamps. Also the stencils, it is a 4-piece stencil set, and then we've got the dies, and we will be using these two dies because they match up with the flowers that we're using, and then also the embossing folder. So this is really cute. I love how this came together so easily. Let's go ahead and start with this. We will be using our sticky mat. And just because we're doing quite a bit here today, I already prepped my two images. I heat embossed those in gold with Brutus Monroe embossing powder Gilded. I love that one. Let's go ahead and cut apart our images, and I just did them on a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 at the same time because they both fit on there. And it was super simple to heat emboss them like that. So we will go ahead and bring out our stencils, and we're going to kind of clean them as we go because we don't want to get ink where we don't want it. So I've got that in my lap, and let me show you on the stamp set. If you pull out the little guide here, it's really nice because they go into detail for which stencil you need for which flower. So we've got the flower here, which is this one. So we need stencil 3 and stencil 4. And it's really nice because they just walk you through the whole thing. So let's go ahead and pull out 3 and 4. And we're going to change it up a little bit. We are going to be using purple instead of yellow, just because I wanted to do something a little different. So we can line this up, and it lines up pretty easily. Oh, sometimes you need to flip them over, which is what we need to do here. We flipped over that stencil so we can get those images in there. And that's nice because you can use them a couple different ways. So we've got that lined up. Let's go ahead, and we're going to start with Hydrangea from Pinkfresh. And I've also got the Opulence kind of as our accent for our second layer if we need it. And then we will be using Olive. So let's start with the Hydrangea. And I don't want it to be too dark. So make sure you kind of blot that off on your stencil and come in very gently with that color. Like I said, I don't want it too dark. What I'm going to try to do is I'm just going to try to do like a second generation of this color for our accent. And I am going to put a little bit more color down at the bottom, at the base of that flower, so we can get some shading in there, just like that. So let's move on to our larger flower here. And I'm just going to go around the outside, get some color on there. I'm hoping you can see that. And then we're just going to shade, just like that. Now I do want the inside of my petals to be a little darker at the base. So I'm just going to take my brush and just carefully, not too heavily, just go around the base of those petals and just try to get some nice shading. Just like that. So now we can take this stencil. Let's kind of wipe that off, although we are using the same color. We can take this stencil, and it sticks to that mat, and then we can just move it over, and this is our accent. We're going to line it up. It takes a little, you have to, take your time and line that up, but it does line up pretty well, pretty easily. So we've got that lined up. You just want to make sure that you don't have any white space showing. So then we'll come back in with that same color, and we're just going to go darker in those areas that are open, so we can get some accent with that. That yellow was so bright. For the yellow samples, I used Pinkfresh. What did I use? I thought I wrote it down. I used Pinkfresh. Gosh darn it, I can't find the little note right now, but I will make sure that I have everything on my website listed. You can go over to my website and you will get a lot more details, a lot more pictures. It's kind of like a blog. I'm trying to keep that updated every time I do a video. Please make sure that you leave me a comment. Please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe if you haven't already. And I will have everything listed in the description below that I used. A lot of these items that I used, well, several of them I got from Firefly Farm in Minnesota. But I did get this stamp set, this suite, directly from Altenew. All right, let's take a look and see. I think we need to go a little bit darker, just because I want to be able to see that shading. And I'm doing this rather slowly because I don't want to get a lot of ink on there and then regret having too much. So we're just going to do little bits at a time. And these are my favorite blending brushes. These are the Waffle Flower double-ended shading brushes. I love these. All right, let's see what we got here. And that looks pretty good. I think that's beautiful. We're going to go with that. Let me wipe that off real quick. And then we need to do our little flower down here, just like we did the other ones. So I will go ahead and do that. I'm going to go in light, sort of light, and then heavier at the base of the flower, so we get that shading. And then again, which is really cool, we have the other little area here that will give us even more shading on that flower. Just like that. Perfect. Let me clean my stencil. And when you clean these stencils, be cautious because there are some pointy parts and you don't want to rip those or bend them. So just use a little extra caution when cleaning them. So we didn't need our opulence. I'm glad we were just able to use the hydrangea. So let's see what we've got here. We've got some of our greenery on here. I've got this little swirl on there. So we're going to just line that up, and this is where we're going to bring in our green. And I am using the olive green. I'm keeping it very simple with colors here. And again, I am going to tap off and just come in gently because I don't want that color to be too dark, and then kind of darker at the base so we can get some shading. So there's one of our greenery images. And then we have another one over here. We almost could have left this in place, but I want to make sure that it's perfect. So just like that. Get some more green on there, tap that off, and then gently come in. We don't want it too terribly dark. And then fill in your base. Just like that. And that is so pretty. These stencils line up really, really well. So let's bring in, this is number 4, and let's see where our images are. So now I am going to do these 2 images, and we probably could have done all of them at once. I didn't realize that they were all on this one stencil, but I kind of like to do it this way, just so I can take my time and be extra careful and make sure everything lines up perfectly. Bring in some more of that olive, tap it off. And this is also, so you can do different color for your leaves. You know, some people, I've seen a lot of the teal and the blue and the turquoise for leaves. I am a little bit more traditional. I prefer to keep my leaf colors green. I just do. I don't know why, but I just like them to be green. Tap that off, come in gently. And then shade. And you know what? I need to move this a little bit. No, it's getting pretty good coverage. There we go. Sometimes you will need to adjust your stencil, but you do get a very nice image when you use stencils. There we go. Let's wipe that off, just so we don't make too much mess. And then we've got this one little area here. We can bring in our stencil and line it up down here. I'm going to keep this green. You could do this another color if you preferred. And this suite from Altenew is an older suite, but it's newer to me, and that is beautiful. Isn't that pretty? I just love that. That came out so nice. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to do the other flower. You've already seen how I stencil. I am just going to do that one. Okay, so I've got my second image colored. And while we have the ink out, I am going to quickly show you this card. So this card I embossed with the embossing folder, and your stencils also work on the embossed image, which is really, really nice. I don't know, it looks good to me up close, but if I hold it back, it looks just a little bit sloppy. So I am not a fan of this. I've got to figure out how to perfect this look. And there is one little image here that the stencil did not color. So I left that blank and just put my sentiment over it, thinking that nobody would notice, and it works. But let me show you real quick how you can color with your stencils on the embossed image. So you've got to find your flower. Let's do the one at the top. And it is a little bit, it's a little bit difficult. And I'm going to show you what I mean. We just need to find where it fits. There you go. So the image is a little bit smaller than your stencil. So you need to do this in parts, in stages. So our first stage here, we're going to take and we're going to line up this top right-hand corner. We will bring in our blending brush, and I'm just doing this just to show you. And then if we want to continue on the flower, we need to readjust that stencil down a little bit. And that's just so you don't get ink where you don't want it. So adjust that stencil, and then you'll adjust again for this other area on the bottom. And you just have to keep moving that stencil around. Now we're going to move up here. We will readjust that stencil. Readjust that stencil again. And then we've got the whole image colored. And it is beautiful. I love how you can do that on an embossed image, but you do have to move that stencil around, otherwise you won't get good coverage. You'll leak over onto the edge, and you don't want that. You want that whole flower colored. So you can do it, it just takes a little bit more time. And I just wanted to point that out to you. We've got our images stenciled and colored. We are going to line up our dies so we can get these die cut. Our images are all lined up and taped down. We're going to set that aside for a minute because we are going to do all of our die cutting and everything at the same time. So for my background on the A2 card, I am using, for my background, isn't that pretty? I just love that. I am using the Floral View press plate from the BetterPress from Spellbinders. And that is just so pretty. So I've already got it lined up. I do need to bring it down just a smidge, it looks like. And we are going to use that same purple ink, but I want a very light impression. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ink this whole plate up, and I'm going to be almost stamping off. You know how when you're using a traditional stamp and you stamp off, and then you get your second generation of ink? That's what I'm going to do here. I am going to run my plate through one time and then not ink it up again, and then get another image that is much lighter but the same shade. So when you ink up your plate, you just want to twist and turn. And the dye inks work wonderful on here. You don't necessarily need to use the BetterPress ink. I do like the BetterPress inks, but you don't get a wide variety of colors. And because I already did my floral images in this hydrangea, I wanted to use that same color for my background. So that should be pretty good. I think we've got that inked up good. And I want a nice dark coverage because we are stamping off basically. Just like that. I've already got my cotton paper taped down to my base here, or to, I think they call it the chase, the platen. I don't know. I don't know what's what. But I've got it taped down to my plate there. I am taking my extra piece of watercolor because I'm going to run it through after. And I am also going to die cut my images. Alrighty, so I've got my images die cut. And those came out beautiful. That ink will settle down a little bit once it dries, and it will be a little bit lighter. And here is my first impression. I just love LetterPress. That is so pretty. I haven't looked at this yet. I'm hoping for my second generation of the ink. It's a lot lighter, and that is just beautiful. I love how you can do that. And that came out perfect. So to clean the ink off of my LetterPress plate, I've seen some people use alcohol, but I don't want to do that because the plate has actually a kind of a coating on it. You can feel the coating with your fingers. And I want to make sure that I maintain the integrity of that coating. So I've just been using stamp cleaner, and it seems to work perfect. So we've got our two LetterPress panels here. We are using the lighter one. I'm going to set that aside for something else one day, and I'm going to trim this out. And I am just going to take 1/8 of an inch of paper off of each side, so I end up with 4 and 5 1/4. And I'm taking from each side because I want to maintain the integrity of that image. I want it to still be centered, and it is. So it came out perfect. And we can go ahead and assemble. See, these are so easy, and they just came out beautifully. So I've got my embossed image here also. And what I did for this is I brought in my slim ornate banner from Pinkfresh, and I am using the 2 biggest dies. First, I cut the paper from this smaller die, the center die, and then I took my paper and I lined it up inside of my embossing folder right where I wanted it. I kind of went up to the writing on the top of the folder, and I just made sure, I looked through the folder, I made sure it was nice and centered, and I ran this through my machine. So my plates, I'm just going to use this as an example. Say these are my die cutting plates. I ran it kind of at an angle because I found if I ran it straight through the machine, I got quite a few wrinkles on the edge. But if I take this embossing folder and I kind of turn it a little bit, it did help with not getting so many wrinkles in my paper, because that is a 3D embossing folder, and it really puts quite a beautiful impression in that paper. It is just amazing, the impression you get with those 3D folders. So then I've got a couple samples here ready. I wasn't sure which purple I would want, and I'm thinking, I don't know, my goodness, which one is going to look better? We're going to attach that. And then this image here, I specifically chose for this card because it fits right over that embossed image. It's that same image. And I'm liking that look, but I think I might, no, it's the wrong shade. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and use the lighter. For my slimline card, I cut this at 7 1/4 and then scored it in half. So let's go ahead and get that going. Okay, so let's go ahead and assemble. I've got my 2nd generation LetterPress panel here. I've put a piece of foam, and I've got some double-sided tape on the back of that. We are just going to put that on our card base, just like that. Then for my slim line, I directly attached my outline piece to the card base. On my embossed panel, I added some foam strips because I want to make sure that that stands up. We're going to bring that down, just make sure it's nice and centered. Now, I have not mailed myself one of these cards yet. I think I need to do that because I want to find out how well this holds up in the mail. You know, when you mail something, it goes through those machines, and a lot of times things can get squished, and I want to see how it holds up. So I might mail myself one of these, and then I'll let you know. So I've got our die cut piece here. I'm just getting some glue on the back of that. And this is the piece. This is the same flower as the center flower. So let's add that. And you can place that right over those petals and leaves. just like that. I've got some sentiments pre-done. I also letterpressed my sentiments. I've got thank you, you're the best. And I did these in the same olive green that we used for the leaves. So let's just kind of figure out where we want these. Get some glue on our second die cut piece. And I did stack the die cut pieces here just for a little bit more dimension and stability. So when we add this one, and we can just place that wherever you want. Just try to center it a little bit. I think right there is good. Just hold it down. That glue does adhere really quickly to that cotton panel. And I will have the cotton panel in my description, the paper that I use. I like to use the Crane's Letra. It is a lot more reasonable in cost, and it just feels so nice. So now we will take our sentiments. I also stacked those, and we will add those. And you can set this up any way that you want. If you want a different orientation for everything, you can do that. So then I'm just going to take my ruler, make sure that's somewhat straight, and add my other sentiment. And that's one card done. Let me add my sentiments to the other card. So now we are done with these two cards. That was so quick. I am going to be using Pinkfresh Studio Leaf Clear Drops. And there we go. Our cards are done. These came out so pretty. I just love that. So we got a slimline card, we got a standard A2 card, and then we've got our two yellow ones. Please let me know what you think of these cards, which color is your favorite, and don't forget you can customize these to any color you want. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.